Hello and welcome to Donkermet channel. Out in the yard here with this apple tree, as previously featured on the channel. We have an apple tree. It finally fell down. It was leaning at an angle like this for the longest time, held on by a thread down there. So what I decided to do for time being is leave the bulk of it, because I think that this has a chance of rerouting. Well, it's still rooted down there, you know, the bark's still attached down there at the underside. So this stuff is still alive. Don't know whether it will be able to thrive, but I'd like to give it the possibility, you know, maybe we'll get a load of new shoots, maybe we'll end up with a couple of new trees or something. I don't know, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I came out here before with this axe that I'd put a handle on, and I broke the handle very quickly. Now I put this new handle on. I have documented some of that on the channel, but hadn't really fully reviewed it. This time around I've just been using it before I start proclaiming I have handled an axe. But yeah, it's done quite a lot of work now. You can see that there's a load of chopped up stuff over there to be processed, and kind of all over the place. And this I was thinking to really kind of take down the rest with a chainsaw. I want to take down these parts here and get some nice lumber. But I made a spoon yesterday, a little tiny spoon, and today I tried my hand at making some bigger spoons, and I just completely failed really at making big spoons out of a fairly nice piece of branch wood, but the spoons weren't in there. But I did find one. We'll go and have a look in a minute. I started making a regular size kind of eating spoon, but I thought first I would just demonstrate this. Although of course it's the same old story. I can actually use this two-handed. But anyway, just to demonstrate the how this thing cuts. It's a real cutter. Yeah, so on the green stuff, I mean, it just breezes through. It feels like a really sharp machete or something. Very nice, flat, just really keen cutter. However, my preliminary attempts at kind of carving with it were not so satisfactory. I would equate that to, it's like, you know, you get a factory ground, slicey, hollow ground knife and try and carve with it. It's just not, doesn't have the right geometry. It cuts too keenly. You don't get the steerability and the subtlety. So here we are in the carriage house. Got a bit of a mess here, but I can show you the other tools I've been working. It's my little axe mask there. So yeah, for carving, I've been using this Council Tools Flying Fox, which I've had for quite some time. I've had this since about 2020, I think. And apparently they enjoy somewhat legendary status, these things now. A lot of people use them in throwing competitions and I don't know what. But for me, it's always just been a handy hatchet. You know, over time, putting my own kind of edge geometry on there has made the use more pleasurable. It also spent, I think, 1 or 2 seasons just lying out in the forest in my woods camp there, under all conditions. So, you know, it kind of got rusty, but it doesn't really rust out well, you know. And that's obviously not because it doesn't have high carbon or whatever, but they say that, you know, when you get a good heat treatment, things won't rust so easily. And the handle really good as well, really nice and slim, and obviously a really good quality piece of hickory, nicely selected, nicely done. That also held up. Could really do with some oil now, but I mean, like I say, it was just out in the woods, rain and shine for a year or two, practically. Hung like this most of the time. That did help. You know, if you leave it flat, I think rain can puddle under it and whatever, and you get more trouble. So, yeah, that's a great little carver. Then I moved on to just the knives that I had on me, which I'm just carrying this most days now. This Lucky Dog pocket hawkbill deal. And I love it more and more every day, because I just keep taking steel off it, making it, you know, more of a legit pruner. The robustness of the factory grind would be very well suited to, you know, bushcrafting and heavy use, abusive. You could baton with it and all kinds of stuff, right? Because it's 3V. But I just love a hawkbill for a typical hawkbill, you know, pruning, slashing, kind of things, and also for whittling, as we're about to see. So this is this is just a slip joint that I had in my pocket. Well, it's not just a slip joint; it's quite a fancy one. It's a Boker knife of the year 2024, I think. Dama steel. I believe they call this a dino pattern. And this was in collaboration with the creator of said pattern, whose name escapes me. Very nicely done blade. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm not so keen, actually, on the whole G10 thing, but it is nicely done. And the spring is kind of soft. You don't have a very, you know, when you're using it, you get a bit of this play kind of feel, you know? So, I don't give them top marks on that, but the blade is great. However, I was using said blade to whittle on this spoon, and then at some point, just intuitively, I switched over to this one, and this is great. This is lovely. So, where are we? Yeah, I just had this back on the block with the axe. You know, I want to switch back and forth. So to sing the praises of the cutting performance right now would just be to sing the praises of my own handiwork, and I do enough of that probably. So what else is it about this knife that makes it my current go-to everyday fixed blade? Well, I'm not a huge fan of Kydex sheaths, but I got to say that it's so convenient. The portability of this particular function. I guess what I don't really like so much is a Kydex sheath for belt wear. But this little thing pops in my pocket. The handle pokes out with the lanyard. It's just so easy to grab it and yank it, and there you go. Then in hand, the ergonomics are pretty good for such a small knife. You know, there are no major hotspots. That's one thing. Works well in reverse grip, although I would prefer a sway back handle, I guess, for that. But yeah, it works well in this reverse grip, which I use a lot for pruning and cutting vines. Been cutting a lot of vines recently. Holds an edge very well. Yeah, the 3V. They stated the Rockwell hardness, and what I could remember is it didn't seem that hard, you know, for what 3V can take. But this may have benefits. In fact, I'm sure it does. Certainly, it makes it easy to hone, and tough as nails. These wells here, I'm not sure how crazy I am about that, but it works. I think that it's better than just having them flat, right? But there are other kinds of contouring that would be possible. I don't know. There's just nothing really, nothing much at this point to complain about. At the very start, it had a sharpening choil. I didn't like that for pruning and box cutting and stuff, but that's wasn't too hard for me to modify. Hey, the company, they seem like cool people. Andrew, I think is his name. The guy, he's on the YouTube. He'll comment occasionally on my channel and stuff. Maybe I'll tag you. Hey, Andrew. And so it's a collaboration between a designer, an American designer, and a maker who's up in Canada. It's like a two-man show. That's pretty cool. I like the way that they have this distinctive look. You can spot a Lucky Dog knife from across the room. I have a couple of other models. I have the Ram's Foot. Sorry if I can't remember the name. I think that's the Bulldog. And I have the Spay Blade, which is wonderful. I hardly use that yet. That's my most recent. In fact, I think it'd be fair to say I haven't really used it yet. But it's cool, and I'm sure I will. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Just making a spoon and using this knife and thinking, I did want to also mention that I saw this knife recently was reviewed by Juvon's Knife Flicks, and he had a really cool title. He called it like the little knife that thinks it's a machete. And I think maybe I should try and make a video where I show how I use this to combat vines. And it is actually a very viable alternative to a machete. Not for slashing, but because, with a machete, you're kind of hacking your way and reducing all of this shrubbery, right, or whatever it is. But with this thing, you can take a targeted approach, right? You find your way to you grab a vine at any point and trace your way back to a central node, and then you cut it there, or you trace it back as far as you can go and still cut it. And sometimes you can trace it all the way back and just pull the roots, but a lot of times, it's too much of a tangle. But it's like a strategic. It's a strategic approach rather than a thrashing approach. I quite like both. Yeah, I like the machete. I like the katana machete. In as much in the same way, perhaps, as I would come at this with a hatchet, and then I would hit it with a knife for a while, and then maybe I'd go back to the hatchet. Well, I could bounce back and forth between this tool and a machete. And then, you just yank the roots. Got to start wearing gloves, completely messed my hands up. So I am going to resume the wearing of gloves for certain activities. But, not using blades. I don't like having anything between me and the tool when it's a sharp tool, I guess. As a rule, but there's obviously probably going to be a lot of exceptions, actually, like using this max axe with the plastic handle. Plastic handle, no, not going to use a plastic handle against my bare skin for whatever, an extended period. If I got a nice pair of deerskin gloves to throw on. There we go, a little more whittling and a little more waffle, and I'll sign off. Thanks for watching, bye.